Hello again. Good morning. Welcome back to our new series of webinars. This is our second event in the second series of webinars co-hosted by the Department of Buildings and ASHRAE New York City. And we will be hosting virtual webinars like this one on this platform over the next few weeks. The schedule is already published on our website, and you can check the future dates online. We will be adding registration links once we finalize those events, and we will also share the schedule later during this presentation. As always, we will be sending announcements and email reminders, so please stay tuned, and thank you for your interest in our programs. As we are waiting for more people to connect, let me quickly share that we always get tons of questions. So the answer to the number one question is yes, we record these webinars to make them available for future viewing. And everyone who had registered for the first webinar, which was last Friday, should have received a follow-up thank you email with the link. But also we will share the link to that video recording in the chat just in a few seconds. So that's a good moment for everyone to try and locate your chat on the control panel. It should be on your right-hand side if you are connecting from a computer. And so that was regarding the first event from last Friday. And we can try to translate it into the Hollywood standard because we're just after the Oscars gala. So the first video is for season 2, episode 1, and all previous videos from the first series. So that would be season 1, episodes 1 through 6 from a few months ago are also available on both the ASHRAE and DOB websites, and you can access them by visiting ashraeny.org and clicking on events and then selecting DOB Sustainability Series. Now let's focus on the future. In the chat, we will be also sharing a registration link to the next webinar. It is planned for the day after tomorrow, which is Friday, March 7th, and it will be hosted from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Everyone is welcome to join. The tickets are free as always, so please, when you have a second, try and register for that event as well. Okay, so just a few more housekeeping items for today's event. This event will approximately last 3 hours. A video recording of the webinar will also be available after this session for future viewing, and it will be posted on both ASHRAE and DOB websites. We will also send a follow-up thank you email with the link to the video recording. Next, everyone except for the speakers is in listening mode only. However, we would like to encourage everyone to ask questions in the chat window. So please take a moment and locate the chat section on your control panel. Should be on your right side. And the DOB team, along with our guests, we have many guests today, they will be glad to answer any of your questions during the webinar. If time permits, we may also be able to conduct a brief Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And if for some reason you weren't able to ask a question, your chat didn't work, or anything else happened, please email your questions to the email address that will be posted in the chat. It is beam_ll97@buildings.nyc.gov. And you should see the email address in the chat in a second. And we will be sharing a link to the presentation evaluation survey at the end of the webinar. So please also feel free to share your feedback, some kind words for the team, and let us know how we can improve. All right, finally, let me introduce our speakers. I would like to welcome Emily Hoffman and Linda Tam with the New York City Department of Buildings, Gabriela Scott with Con Edison, James McMorten with National Grid, Justin Bulova with New York City Accelerator, and James Henderson with New York City Sustainability Help Center. So welcome everyone, and Emily, we're looking forward to your presentation. Thank you for joining us today. Please begin when you are ready.
Thank you, Luke, and thank you, Ashray, for hosting us again. Welcome, everybody. Next slide, please, to the 2025 Benchmarking Forum. Today, we will be going over all details related to benchmarking, how they tie into the new reporting process for the sustainability laws, and getting into additional details. If you have never benchmarked before, this would give you that type of information you'll need. Hopefully we can answer all of the questions today that you guys have. As Luke mentioned, if we don't get to those questions, please reach out to us. We're working on compiling lots of information, posting it on BEAM so that everything is open and aware for the public. Next slide, please. I'll kick us off. We want to go over the Local Law 97 timeline. The timeline for reporting for 97 is effectively 6 months. The BEAM portal opened this week, and you have 6 months until the end of August to file your report. This includes both the grace period and the extension period. I just want to point out that all 3 laws are due on May 1st. Benchmarking is due on May 1st, 97 and 88. However, 97 and 88 have this grace period that is allowed for all filings. You don't have to apply for that, and that effectively sets the deadline at June 30th. If within that time frame you apply for an additional extension, then that will grant you another 60 days, and that gets you to the end of August. So just want to highlight that, and also point out that at this time, the benchmarking deadline is still May 1st. Next slide, please. If you attended our webinar last Friday, we talked about the new Local Law 97 reporting process, how we use 3 portals, the DOB Now payment portal, BEAM, and Energy Star Portfolio Manager. We went through that process and how it relates to Local Law 97. We just wanted to highlight that this may be slightly different for, for benchmarking reporting if there are different service providers than are filing for 97 or 88. So I just want to highlight the process that is happening this year for the first time in 2025. So the first step, as in with 97, is you have to pay the filing fee in DOB Now for either the Local Law 97 report or the Local Law 88 report if your 97 report is not due in 2025. And you're paying the filing fee, but you're also establishing the 3 contact email addresses that will allow you to log into the BEAM system to view your building and your building's data. That information transfers nightly to the BEAM system. So the 3 email addresses that are transferring are the owner, the owner's rep, and the 97 or 88 service provider. Those contacts will have to log into BEAM, and then they have the option to add the 88 service provider into BEAM if they are not the benchmarking service provider. Once that is done, then the next step should be going into ESPM, following the new property share request with New York City. Linda Tam is going to go into details on that, exactly how to do that. Once that is done and shared with the City of New York, that data will transfer into BEAM nightly, and then you should see your data in BEAM the next day and receive an email confirmation that the city has received your data in BEAM. So in short, the 84 reporting process is completed once we receive the data in BEAM. It's still subject to data quality checks, but it would be received once we see it in BEAM. Also, something to note that's different from previous years is that in Energy Star Portfolio Manager, the property data administrator email address must be associated with the owner or the owner's rep. So this may require you to get in contact with the property data administrator and change that, change that contact information. Next slide. And just before I hand it off to Linda to get into the details, I just want to reiterate some high-level changes and how this year's benchmarking is going to be different because we have 3 sustainability laws all due at the same time. That's benchmarking 97 and 88. I mentioned that there are applicable grace periods and extensions for the 97 and 88 reporting, reiterating again that benchmarking is still due May 1st. And as most of you are aware, 84 is the data from 84, the benchmarking data is a prerequisite for most 97 filings. And in 97, that report has to be submitted by a registered design professional. So there needs to be coordination that's happening between if there are 2 different service providers for the benchmarking data and the 97 reporting, that registered design professional is going to have to do a review of the ESPM data and validate that everything is accurate, and that's different from the past. So this is going to require, just noting that this is going to require some additional coordination between the building owner's rep, and the benchmarking and 97 service providers. With that, I want to pass it off to Linda Tam to go into the details of how you report this year for benchmarking.
Thank you, Emily. I will be going over the changes for this year's benchmarking and energy grading compliances. Some of these Emily already went over, but I'll also go over them again. The share request is required instead of the reporting template. This is a major change for what has been done for the last 10 years. The BBL and bin format and ESPM is mandatory and must be updated to reflect numbers only, so no dashes or spaces. Again, the ESPM property data administrator must be the building owner. And the bin level information with specific building details is required for local law 97. So you need to create a property for each bin in ESPM. Next, please. So properties on the local law 84 covered buildings list are required to report their annual energy and water usage to the city. The 2025 CBL will be available on our webpage soon. I know everyone's looking for that. You can also refer to the Department of Finance's quarterly property tax bill. The benchmarking requirements are listed in there as well. This is also available on their webpage. Just a quick refresher, a covered building for local law 84 is a single building that is over 25,000 gross square feet, or multiple buildings on the same tax lot that together exceeds 100,000 gross square feet. The first benchmarking deadline for 2024 calendar year data is May 1st, 2025. Next, please. So there are 2 parts to the property sharing method. You will need to complete both parts. All these steps here are also available in our ESPM user guide. In part 1, you will need to connect your account with DOB and ESPM. Make sure that when you're searching for username, it has to be in the specific field. Otherwise, the account won't show up. You will receive a confirmation email once the account share request is accepted, which will prompt you to part 2. In the next slide, please. In part 2, you need to share your properties with the city and ESPM. after your share request is accepted. Just want to note that anyone with full access can share the property, but only the property data administrator will get the email notifications. And also very important, if you're sharing a campus, make sure to select the parent and all the child properties in that same campus. After you complete all the steps here, you will receive a confirmation email within an hour once the property share request is accepted. If you don't receive an email, please check your spam or junk folder. Next, please. So once you successfully share the property, the next thing you have to do is review your data in SPM. Because all the benchmarking data will be reviewed for completeness and accuracy by the department. If the data is insufficient, you will get an email asking you to correct the errors in ESPM before the quarterly deadline. The quarterly deadlines for benchmarking are May 1st, August 1st, November 1st, and February 1st of the following year. Failure to correct the data may result in a violation. If you need any assistance with ESPM, like with the property sharing steps or the data corrections, you can contact the New York City Sustainability Help Center. Next, please. I'm going to start going over the metrics review for benchmarking. So first up, we have the standard ID for New York City is the borough block and lot number. This is a 10-digit BBL number found on the covered buildings list. This must be 10 digits only. Do not use dashes or other symbols. For our current ESPM users that already have the property set up, you need to review and update the BBL format in the standard ID field so that it looks like the sample shown here. For campuses with multiple BBLs on the parent property, please use a semicolon to separate the BBLs. Don't use any other symbols or spaces. The other standard ID is the building identification number, also known as the BIN. Each building has a unique 7-digit BIN. You can find the BIN by searching the BBL on DOB Biz, and you can verify with the local law 97 covered buildings list. So again, just like with BBLs, for campuses, only use a semicolon to separate the bins on the parent property. Number of buildings, the data must not be missing or enter as 0. For campuses, make sure that the number of buildings and number of bins listed on the parent property are consistent with each other. Next slide, please. So the street address entered in ESPM must be the main address from DOB Biz. So over here on the property profile overview in Biz, the main address will be in the blue banner on top. So in our example here, we have 134 Madison Street, and that will be used in ESPM. Next slide, please. Gross floor area. So this is a major change from previous years. This definition here is from the rule for benchmarking, and it's also the same for GHG emissions. So that means the whole building's gross floor area may not be the same as the gross square feet. You could check the Article 320 guide, a filing guide for more guidance on GFA. But also note that the GFA for the property type breakdown must follow local law 84 requirements. And then Emily's going to go more into the GFA in the next slide.
Yeah, and just want to touch on the GFA, you know, specifically for 97, that the specific documentation that the RDP uses to verify the gross floor area, this is at the registered design professional's discretion. So, you know, the verification method that the RDP uses should be in line with the required reporting granularity. So if you have a building that's, say, mostly multifamily or all multifamily, then the type of verification method would be different than one where you have, you know, multiple property types within a single building. So that verification method and gross floor area determination approach can be adjusted accordingly. When this is filed in the 97 report, we're not requiring that supporting documentation is submitted with the report. However, you should preserve that documentation as we go through the audit process. You may be called upon to present that to DOB during the audit. All right, Linda, back to you.
Thanks, Emily. So the metrics here affects Energy Star score for energy grading compliance. If your building's on the Local Law 84 covered buildings list, property types and ESBM must be reported according to Local Law 84 requirements, not 97. So that means if the building's primary property type is eligible for an Energy Star score, and makes up over 50% of the building, the property types less than 5,000 gross square feet must be combined with the primary property type. If your property is subject to Local Law 97, the additional property types may be entered in BEAM. Please don't select other or mixed use property. You have to find the closest match to your property type. You can only use other from a specific property type category. So for example here, if your building's used for education, but it doesn't really fit any of the ESBM property types listed under education here, then you can select other. The number of units, this is specifically for multifamily housing property types. It must not be 0, missing, or include decimals. Next, please. Standalone property, this is only for a single bin on a single BBL. So standalone property submission will not be accepted if it's for a single BBL with multiple bins or multiple BBLs with multiple bins. If you have any lack discrepancies, please email us. Next slide, please. So campus reporting is required for a single BBL with multiple bins and multiple BBLs with multiple bins that share energy. So on the parent property level, the standard IDs must have all the child properties, BBLs, and bins. Again, only use the semicolon to separate those in the standard ID fields. Don't use any other symbols or spaces. All child properties data must be aggregated on the parent level. So that includes the energy and water usage, GFA, number of buildings, number of active meters, etc. A child property must be created for each bin. So that's 1 bin per child property only. Each child property must have the specific GFA and property type breakdown for that bin. So our examples here is on the left, we have the parent property that has 1 BBL and 2 bins, and then child property 1 and 2 have different bin numbers, are for different bin numbers. On the right, for the multiple BBLs, the parent property has 2 BBLs with 3 bins. Child property 1 and 2 belong to the same BBL, each for a different bin number. And the child property 3 belongs to the second BBL with only 1 bin. Next, please. So the last page of metrics are related to energy and water data. This is relatively the same. Site energy use, the data should not be missing or enter 0. Site EUI and source EUI data must not be missing, enter as 0 or less than 5 or greater than 1,000 kBTU per square feet. Water areas for energy and, meter areas for energy and water, the data should account for the total consumption of the whole property. Municipally supplied potable water, this is always specifically for properties listed on the Local 84 CBL that's marked for water requirement. Data should not be missing or entered 0, and the data should be provided by DEP. Number of active energy meters total, that should be the same as the active energy meters used to compute metrics, so make sure you're including all active meters in your property. And last, modify by, it's highly recommended that you get automated energy consumption directly from the utilities. Next slide, please. So non-compliant properties may be subject to benchmarking violations. A notice of violation is mailed to the building owner's address listed in DOF records. You can update the mailing address with DOF webpage here. This is a new update from last year. So benchmarking violations issued on or after December 2nd, 2024 are on DOB now. The older violations issued before that change are still on DOB Biz. The penalty is $500 per benchmarking violation. This can be issued up to 40 times per year, one for each quarterly deadline that is missed. Next, please. So again, this is related to our new benchmarking violation DOB Now launch. So benchmarking violation challenge request forms are no longer accepted by email. You must submit a challenge request in the DOB Now portal within 30 days from the violation postmark date. At the end, once you go through all the steps here, at the end, just make sure you select the submit button. Otherwise, we won't get your challenge request. Next, please. If you believe that your building is listed on the cover building list in error, you have to contact the Department of Finance. Include in your email the ownership, the borough block and lot number of the building, the square footage, or the number of buildings on the tax lot. The violations will remain open and continue to accumulate while the Department of Finance decides on this matter. Next slide, please. Again, so violation payments for those that were issued after December 2nd has to be paid on DOB Now. These are exactly the same instructions. You just have to select violation payments here. Payments made by e-check take up to 10 business days to be processed. Violations are dismissed automatically after the check is cleared. Payments made by credit card are processed immediately with a 2% fee. So if you need the violation dismissed right away, please pay by credit card. You can go on DOB Now to check on the status of the violation. Next, please. So for the older violations issue before that update, it's still be paid in e-filing. You need a separate e-filing account from DOB Now. Again, all the online DOB payments are the same here. And you can check the older violation statuses on DOB Biz. Next, please. So all the benchmarking violation DOB Now launch updates are also on the DOB service notice linked here. We also have the ESPM user guide available on the Local Law 97 webpage. And for more information, you could also visit the Local Law 84 webpage linked here as well. The webpage will be updated soon with all the information here. Next, please. Okay, so we're gonna go into energy grading for Local Law 33. This is based from Local Law 84. It's not related to Local Law 97. So if you're only on the Local Law 97 CBL, energy grading does not apply to your property. For those that are on the 84 list, there aren't really a lot of changes here, so I'll get through these quickly. You still have to do energy grading this year, though. Next slide, please. So again, buildings owners listed on the 84 CBL must obtain and display a building energy efficiency rating label within October 1st and October 31st, 2025. This label includes a 1 to 100 Energy Star score and the corresponding letter grade. Next, please. The energy scale hasn't changed, just noting that an F grade is given to buildings that didn't submit their benchmarking data by May 1st, that line, and N grades, which are not required to be posted, therefore exempt buildings are not covered by the Energy Star program. And here we have example of our label. This is the same label, hasn't changed either. Just a reminder that this is an official label from the Department of Buildings, downloaded from the DOB Now website. This label must not be modified in any sort of way. Next, please. To comply with energy grading, you must first submit benchmarking data by May 1st every year. Download the label made available on our DOB Now website on October 1st each year. Note that you'll receive a owner's asset station email confirmation from DOB Now with a link to the label. This is your proof of compliance. Once you download the label, you must print and display the label in a clearly visible location near the public entrance by October 31st of each year. Failure to do so will result in a $1,250 violation. Next up. So here are some tips if you're having download issues. Use the Google Chrome browser. Make sure the pop-up function it's enabled for the DOB Now website. Do not enter any leading zeros before the block and lot number in DOB Now. Download the label for every active bin listed under the BBL. Check if the lot on the CBL matches the lot on DOB Now. So this is more for buildings with recent lot changes. Please check all the lots and bins associated with the building. And if you have any other issues with downloading the label, and this is especially for buildings that receive an Energy Star score and ESPM, please contact us in the month of October. Next slide, please. The energy grade violation challenges must be submitted on DOB Now within 30 days of the postmark date. This has not changed. The steps here are exactly the same in DOB Now. Again, just make sure you select the submit button at the end. Next slide, please. The energy grade violation payments are also done on DOB Now. Again, the steps and the payment options are the same all throughout. You can check the status of the violation on DOB Now. Next, please. The detailed energy grade violation challenge and payment instructions are available in a PDF guide linked here. And if you need any more information on Local Law 33, you can visit the FAQ page available on our webpage here. Slide, please. Again, if you need any assistance with VSPM, please contact the New York City Help Center by email or phone. EPA also offers courses or webinar trainings on ESPM on their website. And finally, if you have any questions for benchmarking and energy grading compliances, you can contact us by email. And that covers everything. Thank you so much.
All right,
Thank you,
good
Linda.
morning.
Yes, go ahead, Gabriella. We'll have Gabriella Scott from Con Edison next.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Gabriella. I'm the product owner for the Building Energy Usage Portal. And today I'm just going to walk you through some of the important features and how best we can support you in obtaining accurate and up-to-date energy consumption usage to help report for Local Law 97 and 84. Next slide, please. So on our agenda today, I'm going to run through, sorry, this is a bit like it's to write, but I'm going to give an overview of the Building Energy Usage Portal, and then I'm going to talk through understanding your data. So understanding what AMI data is versus billing data, and kind of like estimating your data as well. Then I'm going to also discuss on-hold properties. This is something that we get asked a lot, like my property is on hold. I'm going to touch on what it means for a property to be on hold and how best you can take it from an on-hold status to an active status in BEUP. Then I will touch on benchmarking a campus. I know the DOB previously touched on this, but from a Con Ed perspective, how best we can support you with benchmarking a campus. Then splitting consumption by bin. This is peculiar to Local Law 97. So I'll just run through a little bit on the guidance from the Con Ed team on how to report by bin 497. And finally, where to find support. So how to reach out to us, or how you can find support within the portal for more information and guidance on using the portal, or just carrying out basic tasks like splitting by bin or downloading your data. Next slide, please. All right, so an overview of the Building Energy Usage Portal. Last year, in February last year, we launched a brand new portal. This is an improved version from our previous portal. If you're familiar with benchmarking, if you've been benchmarking for years, you'll be cognizant of the previous portal, which was the Energy Efficiency Benchmarking Portal. So, but this, the Building Energy Usage Portal, which I'll be referring to as BEUP for the purpose of this presentation, is a brand new portal. It has a whole new look and feel. It's completely different. We've automated uploads to ESPM, Energy Star Portfolio Manager. In the previous portal, you had to go in and request uploads on a monthly basis. But with the new portal, it's all automated. As long as your property is shared with us from ESPM, you should receive monthly uploads to ESPM for your properties. We also use AMI data. This is completely different from the previous portal where we relied on billing data. AMI data, and I'll speak more to this as we progress to the slides, but AMI data you would find is more accurate because it's closer to the source, and it's also more granular. So we're not relying on trip dates for bills. When we kind of provide consumption using calendar months, and that is only made possible through the use of AMI data. We also have a precise estimation methodology. This is to ensure that there are no gaps in your data. You might be well aware that if there are gaps in your consumption data being submitted in ESPM, an error will be thrown and you would not be able to progress or proceed with benchmarking or submitting to the city. So to ensure that there are no gaps in your data, we have a very precise, and I would say this, it's really precise. We've done the analysis, and pretty much if an estimate moves to an actual, if it ever does, you shouldn't expect to see more than a 10% change in consumption value. In most cases, there isn't any change because the estimation methodology applied is very accurate and very precise, like I said. We've also automated the customer authorization emails. In the previous portal, if you're familiar again with the process, you had to have the customer, the building owner, be a user within the previous portal to approve properties, but that's all been eliminated. All you have to do is enter in your building owner's email address. So whoever has authority to approve that you should get access to consumption, all you have to do is enter their email address, and it's all seamless. Your property gets approved and you have access to consumption within the portal. Just to point out that if you're new to benchmarking and you want to kick off with reporting through the BEUP, through the Building Energy Usage Portal, and your Con Edison customer, just go on the link on this page, buildingenergyusage.coned.com, to get started. Next slide, please. All right. For the sake of time, I'm not going to run through the login process, but it's fairly easy. Once you get started as a new user, you're going to have to set up what role you are. In BEUP, there are 2 user roles. So there's a self-requester and then there's the authorized requester. Sorry. Okay, if you're a self-requester, you're basically going to be the building owner. So you're not benchmarking on behalf of anyone, you're benchmarking your own property. So that means you don't require prior access, approval. So when you go into the portal, you select, as a new user, you're going to select the role of self-requester. Now, if you're a property manager or a building consultant and you're benchmarking on behalf of a building owner, you must select the role of authorized requester. So that's all detailed within our user guide, which I would show you how to access. But for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to assume that you're logged into the portal either as a self-requester or an authorized requester. And this is the homepage you would all see. So here, there are quick links to some key pages within the portal. You can easily add a property from the bottom right tile. where you see the button there. You can add a property to the portal. You can view if your property has any pending authorization. So this is specific to authorized requesters. If you need approval from the business owner, from the property owner rather, you would see if that has been processed or not within this tile. You can also access our support documentation. You can access our user guides, our FAQs, and kind of like contact information. And you can also see how many properties are approved within the portal. Now, one thing to point out is that you have to be very much aware of your requester ID. This is a very key and very unique, this is a unique identifier and very key number to be aware of, because this is what you would need in ESPM to connect BEUP to ESPM. Please be aware that if you are benchmarking as a Con Edison customer, you must set up your properties using the same requester ID in ESPM and in BEUP. So when you're establishing a connection, it has to be the same requester ID. If you attempt to establish a connection using a different requester ID in ESPM, the connection will fail. So please be aware of that number. It's on the top right-hand corner of your page. It's on all pages within the portal, and it's typically going to be like 4 digits. It could be more or less, but it's typically 4 digits. Next slide, please. All right, so I'm going to go through, if you're new to benchmarking, I'm going to take you through kind of like the key pages within the portal that would help you obtain data, analyze your data, and understand the data that would be submitted to the city. For the sake of time, I will not be touching all the different features and pages within the portal. We do have a separate session coming up, which I would talk about, where I would go into more details. But let's just start off from kind of like the key and most important aspect, adding a property. So there are 2 ways you can add a property. You can either add as a self-requester or an authorized requester. If you're a self-requester, all you need to go is to the Properties tab from the menu bar, select Add a Property, and this page will pop up. Also for the purpose of this presentation, I'm not going to speak on non-New York City properties. We do have the capability of adding properties within New York City and properties beyond New York City, so properties in Westchester County. So I'm only going to focus on New York City properties for this presentation. So to add a property as a self-requester, all you need is your requester ID. Again, it'll be on the top right-hand corner of your the portal. You're going to enter in your Con Edison account number. So this would be an 11-digit or 15-digit number, which you can find on your bill. So grab a recent copy of your bill. It's right there listed, your account number. You're also going to input your borrow block and lot information, and you can go to DOB now to verify what your BBL information is. Be aware that, you know, BBLs do change based on your tax lot numbers. So always look for the latest information from DOB now. And then finally, you're going to input your portfolio manager property ID. So this is a unique ID which is gotten from ESPM. So before you head off to BEUP to set up a property, you should have that property set up in ESPM. And there's going to be a unique identifier for every property you have in ESPM, which you would input in that last tab. And once you do all that, you just click Add Property. The property would have a validation process, and click Submit, and your property will be added. If you're a self-requester, there's no additional steps because we are going under the assumption that you are the property owner. So once you click Submit, your property is going to be added and it will be approved within the portal. Next slide, please. Now, if you're an authorized requester, so this is the role where you are benchmarking on behalf of a building owner. There's one additional tab, which is going to be the authoriser's email address. Please be careful when entering in email addresses. There are cases when you might enter in characters that might be invalid. So double check to make sure that the email address is correct. Once you enter in the building owner's email address, an email will be sent. So your property is not going to be approved until the building owner or whoever you enter, whoever the authorizer is, approves the property. So what happens is that once you've entered in the email address, you've clicked Submit, an email will be automatically pushed to the authorizer, and the authorizer has the capability of selecting Approve, Reject, or Not Me. If for any reason your property is in a pending state, that means that the authorizer has not approved the property. So please check in with the building owner or whoever the authorizer is. Ask them to check their spam or their junk to ensure that the email didn't go there. What I would call out is that we only generate these emails once. So if for any reason the building owner did not receive the email, you would have to remove the property from BEUP and add the property again to trigger a new authorization email. So similarly to the previous role as a self-requester, you still need your account number, you still need BBL information, you still need your ESPM property ID, but an extra field of the customer authorization email. Next slide, please. Now, another key page within the portal, and this is very helpful for customers who are trying to benchmark or trying to report usage under Local Law 97. This law requires you to have like an in-depth understanding of your data and maybe also split by bin. And you would find this particular page very useful. So the property meter reports page can be accessed from the data tab from the menu bar. Once you go click on data from the menu bar, select property meter reports, you'll be presented with this page. Now, there are two sides to it. So there's the property reports and then there's the meter reports. I'm going to kick off with property reports. For property reports, you would enter in your portfolio manager property ID. You can enter in as many as 100 different IDs. And you can also enter in your property type if you wish to select filter by property type. Now, once you do and you click on apply, you would see the information, the property information for whatever properties that you imputed. Now, the difference between property reports and meter reports is that the property report shows you an annual aggregate for that property. So it's the annual display of consumption across electric, gas, and steam if applicable. And with all pages within the property meter reports, you can download this data. So here, for example, if you look at the screen, I use a test property which has an ID ending with 851, and I can see the aggregated electric consumption, the aggregated gas. For this property, there's no steam, so that would not bring up any values, and I can easily download this data. On this page, you can also toggle between different years. So in BEUP, we provide data for the current year and 2 years prior. As of today, we're providing data for 2025, 24, and 23. So you can toggle between the different years from the service year button, and you can select and download consumption, the annual consumption for your property to view, review, carry out data analytics, whatever you wish to do with your data. Then next slide, please. Now, if you want a more granular view of your consumption data, we have the meter reports. This is all within the same page. It's just two different tabs. You can click on you can toggle between the property reports tab and the meter reports tab. Now, what the meter reports tab does is it breaks down consumption on a virtual meter level, or I'll put it this way, it breaks down consumption on a meter level. Now, BEUP, we provide aggregated whole building data. So we don't provide consumption on a physical meter level. This is something that customers have reached out to us on, asking if we do provide data, but for tenant privacy laws, for tenant privacy reasons, rather, we cannot and we do not provide data on a physical meter level. We aggregate that data. We aggregate all your consumption based on the meter service class. So, for example, your electric service class 2, electric service class 9, gas service class 1. It's all aggregated and is provided within the portal. So if you're trying to look at, if you're trying to have a closer view into consumption across your properties, you would only need to go to the meter reports. You can click on the different meters, and here, just wanted to spend some more time and run through different columns. So for example, what you can see right now, this is the electric class 1. Here you can see the number of accounts and the number of physical meters aggregated under this service class. So if you're wondering, hey, I have a property somewhere in New York, I'm trying to benchmark my data, I'm just trying to do like a quick audit of how many meters are being aggregated in BEUP for a particular service class. And you can do this across all the service classes. You can go into BEUP, go into the meter report, and do like a quick count just to be sure and confident that all your meters are being captured and all your data is presented as expected. Similarly to the reports page, you can download your data here, play around with the data, analyze, split, consolidate, whatever you wish to do. Just all of that is easily available. You can easily download the CSV and review the consumption data across all 3 years, so 25, 23, and 24. Next slide, please. All right, another key page within the portal is the Portfolio Manager connection page. So I talked about adding a property. I talked about the property meter reports page. Another one that you would find very useful as you're benchmarking is the Portfolio Manager connection page. Now, if you're new to benchmarking, this is the message that you would see when you navigate to this page, and you can find this under the data tab from the menu bar. This means that you haven't set up a connection with Con Edison from ASPM. And within our user guides, it's all detailed and broken down how you can establish such a connection. But on a high level, if you're new to benchmarking and you want to make sure that consumption within BEUP gets exported to ASPM, you would want to set up a connection. First, you want to add Con Edison as a contact in ASPM. Then you would want to ensure that your properties are shared from ASPM with BEUP to ensure that that monthly upload is persistent, consistent, and there's nothing broken. So if you're new to benchmarking, this is the message that would appear when you go to your Portfolio Manager connection page. All you have to do is click on the blue button. It takes you to Energy Star Portfolio Manager, and you can then set up a connection. However, if you're more familiar with benchmarking, if this isn't your first go around, next slide, please. This is the page that would pop up once you click on the Portfolio Manager connection page. It shows you can see right there, it clearly says that your account is connected to Portfolio Manager. So there's an active connection. And here you can see an overview of the different properties that are shared from Portfolio Manager with BEUP. You can see properties that are unshared, and you can see properties that are on hold. I'm going to run through what on hold properties are in a bit, but this is a very useful page because we do get some questions around when is my next upload date. I see consumption in December. When am I going to get my January consumption? This is the best page to provide answers to that. So highlighted right there is next upload date. This example here shows that the next upload is the 4th of February, which was just yesterday. So this property should have received a monthly upload to ASPM yesterday. You can also see kind of like the previous upload. So if you click on the drop-down arrow next to your property name, you can see what the previous uploads were for that particular property. Just to point out that there is a 2-month lag between with consumption being provided in BEUP and ASPM. So right now we are in March, and you should expect to see consumption all the way up to January 2025 in BEUP and ASPM. Next slide, please. Okay, so that was a quick run through the demo for people new to benchmarking. If you're more familiar with the process, you would understand the different slides I just showed. But if you're new to benchmarking, just wanted to touch on the key pages that you would find useful. Now let's go over to understanding your data. In BEUP, I'm going to start with estimates because this is something that is frequently discussed. Estimating data are quite common. And the reason, there are an array of reasons why you might see estimated data, but I think one of the most common, or the most common reason would be like a meter communication issue, like the meter is not communicating for just a specific time frame of the day, and this is expected with devices all around. So if that happens, there might be a missing interval, and if we have to go in and run our estimation logic to fill in that gap, we would flag consumption for that month as an estimate if the estimated value is over 5% of the total consumption. I know that that's a lot to digest, but basically we check for missing intervals in data. If we have to apply our estimation logic, we will flag up that consumption data for that month as an estimate. But one thing that we do is that we check for estimates on a bi-weekly basis. So what BEUP does is that we track estimates. We track when a property has estimated consumption. And then when actual data is available, we go back to replace that estimated value with the actual data on a bi-weekly basis. So we run or we update consumption bi-weekly within the portal. So you would expect to see like changes from an estimate to an actual only when the actual consumption or the actual value is available. And if you're familiar with the process as well, I'm sure most folks on this call would have at some point in time received an email from us letting you know that your property just recently had an estimated value updated. So this is an automated email. It gets sent out once a value is changed, once the value changes from an estimate to an actual. And I'm not going to speak for the DOB. I'm guessing they're going to mention this at some point, but estimates are accepted, right? As long as you're closely tracking the value, you're hitting the deadlines, estimates in consumption are accepted for local law 84 and 97. So that's not going to pose any issues to benchmarking with the city. And just be assured that we're doing our very best to make sure that if an actual is available, it definitely is captured in your consumption automatically. Just to note that in most cases, estimates never get updated. So that interval that was missing just remains missing. But our estimation logic, like I said, is very precise. You shouldn't expect to see like a huge disparity between estimated consumption and actual consumption. So that's a little bit on estimates and data. It's common. Do not be alarmed if you do see estimating your data. We have a very reliable estimation methodology and your data is accurate. Next slide, please. And just to touch a little bit more on AMI versus billing. So I mentioned that we have a whole new portal. The previous portal relied on billing data. The current portal relies strictly on AMI where available. So we do have legacy meters, so non-AMI meters. But for the majority of customers in New York City, their properties all have AMI meters. So that's also known as smart meters. So we rely on AMI in BEUP. AMI is more granular, it's closer to the source, it's available each day. There is no need to prorate consumption because we're not dealing with billing cycles. And one good thing about AMI is that your data is always available. So, and it doesn't change. Like AMI is capturing data right at the source. Billing has the tendency to change. So if you get rebilled, if your rate changes, things like that would lead to your data changing. So we've eliminated all of that. We want to keep your data as consistent as possible during the benchmarking season so that you can go in and benchmark at any point in time. And that's why we decided to, stick to AMI to make sure that you have the right and accurate information as of when. So just like with estimating data, do not be alarmed if you do notice a difference between data from BEUP, which is AMI, from our AMI meters, and your bills. You should expect to see slight disparities because your bills, like I mentioned previously, they go by trip dates, like trip cycles, while AMI is kind of like point in time. So that's more on understanding the difference between AMI and billing. Like I said, AMI is more accurate. BEUP would give you your data directly from the AMI meters. Estimates are very common. They are not. They do not imply that your data is inaccurate in any way. So next slide, please. All right, on-hold properties. So we've gotten some questions regarding on-hold properties, and I would like to explain what a property being on hold means. Within BEUP, we provide data for properties on Local Law 97 and 84 covered buildings list. The 97 list is available and out there. I know Linda mentioned that 84 will be published shortly, but all properties within those CBLs automatically have access to consumption within BEUP. Now, we have also introduced an automated privacy check as stipulated by the Public Service Commission. So what happens is that if you add a property into BEUP and your property's BBL is within the covered buildings list for 84 and 97 and or meets our data privacy check, we would automatically push consumption to ESPM and provide consumption within BEUP. However, if your property is not on the CBL, if it's a property not really required for benchmarking, but you would like to understand the consumption data within your property, it would default to an on-hold state. An on-hold state means that consumption data would not be available for that property within the portal and will not be pushed to ESPM. Now, when that happens, if you do require data, if you're trying to report for other kinds of programs, if you're HBD property, HCR property, I believe there's another called IPNA. If you're trying to report for any of these programs and you require consumption data from Con Edison, what you would do is download the letter of authorization form. You can find that on our webpage or within the portal, and I will show you in a bit where to find that within the portal. Download the form, fill it as accurately as possible, and then send the form back to us, citybenchmarking@coned.com, send it via an email, and let us know why you're requesting consumption. So give us a little bit of a background of your property is already in the portal, it is on hold, you're requesting consumption for XYZ purpose, and this is my submitted form. So once we receive that form, our team will review the information within the form. If it's all accurate and good to go, we would enable consumption for that property. So we would move it from an on-hold status to an active status within the portal. And you should expect to see consumption within 2 weeks. So that's pretty much it for on-hold properties. It's a very straightforward process. We're doing our best to prioritize 84 and 97 compliance, but we also are flexible and open to supporting customers who would like to comply for other programs or laws if applicable. Next slide, please. Benchmarking a campus. I know this was previously discussed during the DOB presentation, but on our side, from the Con Edison side, we definitely support properties or customers who would like to benchmark a campus. So a campus is a collection of buildings that either share an energy source or a collection of buildings with the same tax lot number. In that case, there's a possibility that where your consumption is metered, that property doesn't fall within the CBL. So when it's added to BEUP, it would default to an on-hold state. Do not be alarmed, do not panic. What I would say is, if you're trying to benchmark a campus, the first step would be to identify what property has an active Con Edison account. Add that property to the portal. So get the BBL information for that property, add it to the portal. Disregard if it falls into an on-hold state. Send us an email and we would review if that meets the campus standards. If it does, we would enable consumption just like we would enable consumption for on-hold properties. Now, there are additional steps that need to be undertaken to make sure that your property or your set of properties are rightly computed as a campus, but those steps are going to be within ESPM. And on this page, there's a DOB guide on how to benchmark a property, how to ensure that you set up your campus accurately in ESPM. So on the Con Edison BEUP side, we would enable consumption for where your data is where your energy is metered, and you would then proceed to ESPM to ensure that the campus setup is accurate and rightly covers all the properties within the campus. So That's pretty much on campuses. Send us an email if you believe your property is within a campus, and we would guide you through the entire process to ensure that you are receiving consumption. Next slide, please. Reporting by bin. This is new to this benchmarking year, only because this is like the official first year for 97. But BEUP provides data on a BBL level. So data is aggregated in BEUP by BBL. However, the DOB requires reporting consumption on the bin level for local law 97. Now, there are two ways you can handle this. You can either split consumption in-house, so by yourself. You can go to the property meter reports page, download the consumption for your property, and split by the service class and the service address. Or you can hire the services of a registered design professional to do the split. I would recommend going the route of the latter, because there are cases where you have more complex metering setups and you require some level of expertise in splitting consumption. But if your property's metering setup is quite straightforward, there's an FAQ within BEUP that kind of details how to split consumption by bin. I'm not going to go through the specifics for the sake of time, but I would show you how to get to our FAQs within the portal and how you can review the steps on splitting consumption by bin for your property. Next slide, please. Can we go back to the previous slide? Just wanted to call out one thing. So I know I mentioned that 97 requires splitting by bin, but for the majority of properties on the CBL, this is not required because there's a one-to-one bin to BBL relationship. So for each BB4, I would say roughly about 80%, 85% of properties, you should see the same consumption value for your BBL will apply to your bin because it's a one-to-one relationship. But there are cases where there's a one-to-many relationship. So your BBL could have several bins. Those properties will be, or those BBLs will be in the minority, and that is only when you would be required to split by bin. So if you have one bin assigned to your BBL, no further action is required. But if you do have several bins assigned to your BBL, then this is the process you would have to undertake. Next slide, please. Support. We have lots of information within the portal to support you throughout the benchmarking season. The best and easiest way to go through how to set up a property, how to understand estimates, how to understand what the 4x50 privacy check implies, when consumption will be available, would be through our support FAQs and our user guide. So if you're logged into the portal, on the menu bar, you just click on support, and here we have an array of frequently asked questions. Like I had mentioned previously on splitting consumption by bin, you would find an FAQ here that details the different steps that you should take if you're trying to split consumption by bin for your property. You would also get an understanding of estimates and when next to expect consumption for your property. Next slide, please. And then within the same page, so our support page further down, you would see our user guides. We have extensive guides. I'm just going to call out so second from my right is our main user guide. If you're new to benchmarking and you're trying to understand how to establish a connection between ESPM and BEUP, this is a very useful guide. It details the different steps you have to take. It shows you where to find your requester ID, where to impute your requester ID in ESPM, and how to better connect your properties and ensure that that connection persists. So we have our user guide. We also have some information regarding complying with local law 97. And you can also download the letter of authorization if you have an on-hold property and you wish to submit a letter of authorization. You can download the form right there from the bottom right. It's the LOA form. Next slide, please. And more on support. So we're happy to speak The best way to reach our team would be via emails. All emails sent to citybenchmarking@coned.com will be addressed or responded to within 24 hours. We have a team going through different emails. So please reach out to us regarding any kind of support, any kind of help for benchmarking. We additionally, for this year, we created a new email address specifically for Local Law 97. So if you have questions that are only specific to 97, I would encourage you to reach out via Local Law 97 support@coned.com. But keep in mind that if it's more like a general question, if it applies to both 97 and 84, please use the city benchmarking email and we would respond within 24 hours. If you want to speak with us, 212-460-1270 is our help desk number. You can call us between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. and someone would definitely walk you through the different issues or problems or assistance that you may require. Sorry, this slide isn't appearing quite as I wanted to, but when the slides get sent out, you should be able to see the missing text. So when you're sending an email to us, be sure to provide information such as your property meter, portfolio manager property ID. Also provide the meter name, the meter ID. It helps escalate the investigation. Most times, if you do not provide the information as the first email, we would have to ask for it and it could take an additional day or so. So we want to make sure that your issues get resolved in a timely manner. So please provide as much information as possible within your initial email. Also, if you're a New York City property, provide your BBL information. You could also include your service address. Always provide your requester ID within the portal. And finally, the nature of the issue. For this season, it's going to be quite busy. So we are prioritizing support for 97, 84. So if you require support around understanding your data, missing data, consumption issues, we will be prioritizing those support inquiries first. And then we will then go to other kind of issues. We're also going to be prioritizing 2024 consumption. So if you do have issues regarding 23 consumption or 25, we will get to those issues eventually, but they would not be of a higher priority than issues regarding 2024 data for the season. Next slide, please. We have an additional support. So we have 2 support sessions coming up, actually more than that, but the first one would be our 2025 webinar. So we have a 2025 support webinar coming up next week. It's going to be on, I'm sure you can hear me properly. Okay, it's going to be on the 14th of March and it's going to run from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'm going to drop the links in the chat, but if you want more information as well, please go to the BEUP webpage and you should see the different links, how to join the session, how to register. We're also opening up our weekly support office hours. So from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. every Wednesday, you can join our session. You can call in and we would have more like a one-on-one with you, walk you through your different issues, whatever support you might need. And we're more than happy and willing to provide as many answers to your questions to ensure that you're receiving the best and most accurate data during the season. So on that note, next slide, please. On that note, I would like to say welcome to the 2025 benchmarking season. We're hoping and wishing that it's going to be a successful one. At Con Edison, we're here to support you. If you have any issues, please contact us and a member of the team will definitely respond within 24 hours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gabriella, for that very informative session. Next, we have National Grid on deck, but they're having some technical issues. I just want to check in and make sure James McMartin was not able to join. Yes, so we're going to have to skip ahead to Justin Belova with New York City Accelerator. And for all of you, we will be posting the National Grid slides and contact information as you can see, they have very detailed slides on what you need to do for benchmarking and lots of Q&A. So this will be posted, but all right.
We'll still try to see if we can help our team National Grid to connect to the webinar, and we'll just move on to the next presenter, and we'll see if we can accommodate them later.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much for that. If we could go ahead and jump into the next slide. Good morning, everyone. My name is Justin Bolova. I'm the Community Outreach and Events Coordinator with the NYC Accelerator program. I'm sure that you received a lot of information today, and it can be a little bit overwhelming, I'm sure. So I wanted to remind you all that these slides will be available for review after the conclusion of today's event. There will be a recording available for your review. And if there's any one thing that you take away from my presentation, just please know that NYC Accelerator is here to help. We're here to help you on a one-on-one basis, and we're here to help by connecting you with your dedicated NYC Accelerator account manager. There is a link that I just dropped in the chat. Please feel free to get in touch with us so that we can offer that, that assistance. So let's dive in. Next slide, please. Over the next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to begin by giving you an overview of the NYC Accelerator program, and I'm going to walk you through on how it works. I'll be speaking to some of the resources and tools the New York City Accelerator has, and we'll be touching on some of the financing offerings that we also have available. Next slide. So if you're not familiar with the NYC Accelerator program, here's what it is. It is a free city-sponsored program that helps building stakeholders meet compliance requirements for local laws. It helps you save energy in your building and improve your building's energy performance. How do we do that? Well, it's a free technical guidance to help your building meet emissions limits established under local laws like 97, but we also are here to help you with local law 88 as well. We help to identify the energy conservations within your building that are actually feasible, so the lowest hanging fruit. And from there, the program also connects you with service providers. So think contractors, for example, or the folks who are carrying out the scope of work to actually complete these energy efficiency upgrades. We also connect you with incentives and financing options, such as NYC Accelerator PACE. And lastly, we have free trainings offered through us and our partner organizations, such as Sustainability Help Center, such as ASHRAE, to anyone who would like to learn more about building energy topics. Next slide. So how do we do this? How does the program work? Well, all of our services are free. There is no contract, there is no sign up, there is no commitment. And we work with privately owned buildings 5,000 square feet or larger. So even those buildings that are not falling under local law 97. For smaller buildings like 1 to 4 family homes, we typically refer them to one of our partner organizations. But in terms of how it works, a building stakeholder will give us a call, send us an email, or complete the form that I just dropped in the chat. And we would then assign them to a dedicated account manager who is a subject matter expert in the building of your typology, who gives objective and customized advice to help you navigate the requirements. Next slide. At a high level, the Accelerator team supports compliance process by giving you a better understanding of what is required of your building. We also take a look at your benchmarking report that details your emissions and compare that to your building's limits. From there, we can look at how DOB has designated your building or buildings to comply with local laws. And we identify and pull together the incentives that are applicable to you or connect you with the financing support that you need. We also have a service provider program built within the NYC Accelerator, and I'll touch on that in just a moment. But ultimately, we stay with you. We stay with you throughout the process from beginning to end. We're here to help at any point that you jump in and get in touch with us. And this describes how we help with, not just 97 assistance, not just L88 assistance, but overall how we help you navigate energy efficiency requirements for your building. As I mentioned, we work with buildings 5,000 square feet or larger, and we can help you meet compliance for all local laws. When you meet with an account manager, it is really a conversation to start to identify where you need the support from us. Next slide. So to give you an example of the buildings that we work with, let's take a look at a building that we've actually helped. This is 205 Hick Street. It is a pre-war multifamily co-op located in Brooklyn Heights and with 22 residential units. Like many buildings of similar typology, this building's largest challenge was an aging boiler system burning #2 oil, which saw various penalties on the horizon. Next slide. So what did this building do? While working with the NYC Accelerator, this building made the switch from heating the building with oil to partial electrification. Using one of NYC Accelerator's in-network service providers, they installed mini split ductless heat pumps in each unit. Since the building is in the process of decommissioning the boiler that was also responsible for hot water heating, they took this as an opportunity to electrify hot water heating as well. The total project cost was about $900,000 before incentives. But as Con Edison customers, they were able to take advantage of the Con Edison Clean Heat program and receive over $200,000 in incentives. This building did not have any projected penalties for Local Law 97 in the first compliance period, but were estimated to face about $13,000 per year in the upcoming 2030 compliance period based off of benchmarked 2020 energy consumption. So that's an additional $13,000 in annual penalties that they were able to avoid. Next slide. So we've developed and deployed several resources on our website. That's accelerator.nyc, including the one you see on your screen here. This is called a Building Energy Snapshot tool. This is located on our website, and it allows building stakeholders to get some preliminary information about where your building stands in terms of LO97 compliance. You can find that tool again at accelerator.nyc. Just keep in mind that this is based off of 2019 benchmarking data. This tool is a guide. It is not a final report. Next slide. This here is just a detailed report. It shows what your benchmarking snapshot might look like. This is obviously for 216633 Road in Long Island City, and yours would look quite different, but we do encourage you to navigate over to accelerator.nyc to see what your snapshot might look like. Next slide. Another great resource that we have within the Accelerator program is our service provider program. We have an active list of qualified local service providers that you can find on our website. You've heard me maybe mention Registered Design Professional, RCX. These are folks who carry out a scope of work and will submit and file things to DOB on your behalf. This page is where you'll find them. You can filter these service providers based on criteria like your building size, incentive program that you may be applying for, and the scope of work you're looking to do. Next slide. Thank you. This slide really just highlights some of our financing assistance. Again, this is really just another offering, another resource that you have available through the NYC Accelerator program. Our financing assistance, we can connect you with a financing specialist to help identify the relevant, the applicable financing programs that are relevant to the specific projects that you're looking to implement that fit with your building use and your financial structure. We can assist in navigating financing options by connecting you to both capital providers and lenders, but also engaging in building stakeholders during the process. Our goal is to improve the understanding of the various financial products and help guide you when assessing your various options. Next slide. Thank you. This slide's great in the sense that it's a kind of a mapping tool. It helps you better understand the different building type and what financing might be best available to you. If you just follow through the pathway at the top of your screen, it helps you identify your building type and then goes towards identifying what financing incentives might be best for your aimed incentives, aimed upgrades. I want to linger here for just a moment. If you are interested in accessing our entire financing toolkit, you can scan the QR code on the right side of your screen. That will take you to the download of that financing toolkit. It's a great resource to help you identify available financing and navigate what incentives and resources might be available to you. Next slide. And I know that you've heard from Con Edison, and hopefully we'll hear from National Grid shortly, but we wanted to take a moment just to highlight some of the state and utility incentive programs that might be available to you that we can help you identify, that we can help you connect you with the appropriate person. Ultimately, as I mentioned, the first step is getting in touch with your dedicated NYC Accelerator account manager who can help you to navigate the incentives, navigate the financing, and really identify the energy efficiency upgrades that are actually feasible for your building. Okay, last slide. So as I mentioned, I dropped a contact form in the chat. You can click on that link and complete the contact form to get in touch with the New York City Accelerator program. You can also scan the QR code on the left side of your screen. That will take you to the same contact form We hope that you'll take advantage. This would again connect you with your dedicated account manager who is a specialist, a subject matter expert in the building of your typology, who will help you by providing one-on-one support to help you navigate the local laws, the various resources that I highlighted throughout my presentation, the various financing and incentive options that you might have at your disposal. So please give us a call. You can also reach us via the web at accelerator.nyc/L97. You can shoot us an email at info@accelerator.nyc, or give us a call to reach our customer service helpline, who will ultimately also connect you with your dedicated account manager. Thank you all again. Thank you for including NYC Accelerator in this presentation, and I'll be here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, James. And next we have up is Jim Henderson from New York City CUNY Sustainability Help Center.
Thank you, Emily. Next slide. All right, good morning, everyone. My name's Jim Henderson. I'm the program director of the New York City Sustainability Help Center. The Help Center offers information, assistance, and training to building owners, property managers, and energy consultants who have questions about the New York City benchmarking law, building energy grades, local laws 87 and 97, and other New York City sustainability laws affecting large buildings. We're part of the CUNY Building Performance Lab, which offers free and low-cost training in energy efficient operations to building professionals at every level. And you can learn more about our classes at cunybpl.org/training. Next slide. So today I'm going to be giving you a brief overview of the step-by-step benchmarking instructions on the Department of Buildings website. So first up, you can reach the benchmarking page using the short link at the top of the slide here. It's nyc.gov/NYC benchmarking. And if you scroll down the page, you'll see 7 steps to complete the benchmarking for your building. Now, those 7 steps are if you have never benchmarked before. Next slide. So if this is your first time submitting a benchmarking report, you need to create a portfolio manager account and complete all of the setup steps. So everything on the slide here. DOB's instructions include details on setting up your portfolio manager account, includes user guides from National Grid and Con Edison, and other resources and information that you might need to get the job done. If you're a returning user, you have just a few steps to complete this year and next, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on today. Next slide. So the first step each year is to find your building on the covered buildings list, and Linda did mention that this year's list is a little bit delayed, but we expect to see it in the coming days. So an updated list is posted to DOB's website at the beginning of the benchmarking season. And I'll just slide down here. Next slide. And to find the covered buildings list, it's about midway down on the DOB benchmarking page. To check your building to see if it's on the list, you select either the Excel or PDF version of the list and search the list using your property's 10-digit BBL, no slashes or dashes, just 10 straight digits. If your building is on the list, you need to benchmark your building. While you're there, look at the second column, and if that has a yes for your building, you need to report water data. Okay, next slide. For returning users, next step is to check your utility data uploads. And so when you click on the plus sign to expand this step, you'll be able to see the energy and water data page. You can click there to get more information. Next slide. The energy and water data page includes all of the utility user guides, instructions, and respective contact information that you would need. And if you still haven't set up automated uploads for the utilities, this is the year to do it. If you have multiple users, tenants, commercial or residential, you really need to do this because you're missing out potentially in reporting all of your data. And data uploads will save you time. This year will take a little bit more time, but in subsequent years, you won't have to do this anymore. You don't have to enter the manual data. And it will potentially increase your data accuracy. Next slide. Now, to confirm that your energy and water data have been uploaded, you just need to review the meter data on the energy and water pages for your portfolio manager account for each of your buildings. So if you look at the examples here, the most recent build date column, that's the third column with the circled in red. Here it shows 12/31/24. So if you see that for all of your meters, your data has been added to your account. And there's a way of checking this. So I'll go over that in a few minutes. Next slide. Now, what if you've never had to report water before? What do you do? So DOB's website has all the instructions that you need to set up your building. They include an easy to follow guide from DEP and a short YouTube video that walks you through the process. If you're still stuck, you can contact the Sustainability Help Center and we'll help you get through the process. Next slide. Another important change mentioned by Linda this morning is to standardize your borough, block, and lot numbers, or your BBL, to a 10-digit string, which looks like this. Next slide. You can see it at the top of the slide here, 10 digits. So in Portfolio Manager, you may have you did previously enter the number with dashes or slashes, and some of you entered it with the 10-digit string. But this year, DOB requires that all BBLs are entered without the separators and with dashes and slashes. So if you remove your dashes, slashes, or anything else that you may have put in there, you should be left with 10 digits, but please check. You should have leading zeros if your block or lot number has less than 5 for the block or 4 digits for the lot. You just add zeros in the front, and you'll end up with 10 digits. If you have multiple BBLs or bins, separate them with a semicolon without spaces. So it's BBL, semicolon, next BBL. Next slide. And a last but important step is to run the Portfolio Manager error checker to verify that your data is free of errors. So this step will confirm if your energy and water data have any gaps or overlaps in the data, and will check for other common errors. It does not look for your basic building metrics. It won't be able to tell you if your BBLs are accurate, complete, or in the right format, and will not be looking at your personal information that you've added. It really focuses in on the data. Next slide. So to use the error checker, it's pretty simple. In Portfolio Manager, you navigate to the error checker, and it's 2 steps. You set the date to December 31st of the reporting year. In this case, you select 2024, and you click Run Checker. That's it. Now you might see an error for no waste in material meters, but you can ignore that because New York City does not collect this information. And if there are no other errors, your entered data should not have any missing months or data overlaps. It appears that we're a little bit out of sync. So you're one ahead of me. So let me catch up. There we are. Now we're in sync. And now, next slide, which should be perfect. All right. The final step, which sends your benchmarking data to the city, has changed this year. So the previously confusing multi-step process to retrieve your reporting template and then submitting your data, all these little steps, has been replaced by a one-time only setup that shares your energy data with the city. So once you do this, it's locked in and you no longer have to do all those other things to send the data to the city. So Linda reviewed this process earlier today, and instructions will be added to the DOB website in upcoming days. But we're here to help you at the Sustainability Help Center. If you need help, if assistance completing the sharing steps, should only take, well, 2 sessions, but we'll call you twice, 5-10 minutes tops. And that's it. Those are all the steps that you need to prepare for your benchmarking data this year. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so before I finish, just like to mention a few of our upcoming classes. Our benchmarking refresher class is back. This class is just 45 minutes, and it's a great refresher for those of you who haven't submitted a benchmarking report since last year. It's a little brush up. We have classes scheduled for March 27th and April 8th. More information is available at our website at cunybpltraining.org. I'll try to drop these into the chat when I finish. Our other 2 classes are not currently being offered, but we're happy to run those classes. If you need to train 10 or more people in your office, just contact me and we'll set something up. Totally free of charge. Next slide, please. Our carbon reduction workshop series includes the very popular crash course on NYC energy laws. This is a free 3-hour session that gives owners and managers a comprehensive view of New York City energy laws impacting large buildings. Our emissions and plan workshop looks at carbon emissions and the projects that make the most sense for your building. Both classes are free of charge. The next crash course session is on March 28th. The emissions in plan, we have 2 sessions scheduled, and we run these roughly once a month. The next 2 sessions for the emissions and plan class are March 11th and April 11th. Next slide, please. The Sustainability Help Center, we're available to answer your questions about the benchmarking law, energy grades, local laws 87, which is energy audits and retro commissioning, local law 97, and those other New York City sustainability laws that might be impacting your building. You can see our hours and contact information on the slide. So if you run into a problem with your New York City submissions, don't wait, please contact us. If you get stuck, we'll get you unstuck. And that's it. Next slide. And thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, Jim, for that overview and all the assistance that a Sustainability Help Center provides. I'm checking in to see if National Grid is available. I know they were still having technical difficulties. I don't believe they are here. So we really apologize for that. They won't be able to speak to their slides today. Like I mentioned before, we will be posting those along with this entire deck. And if you do have questions, you can reach out directly to them. Can we go next slide, please? Next slide. I think we have a slide on, yes, upcoming webinars. So I'm going to go over a couple of Q&A from the session, but just want to put up on the screen the upcoming DOB webinars that we have. Last Friday, we talked about the overview of the Local Law 97 reporting process, the 3 different portals that are involved. Today, obviously, we went into detail on benchmarking. This Friday, you can join us for Article 321 compliance filing. We'll go through the details of that. And then next Tuesday, we'll talk about Article 320 filing. There we'll talk about just, reporting, deductions and things like that, and also campus reporting. And then the following sessions, we'll start getting into mitigated penalty mitigation, CBL disputes, good faith efforts, things like that. And then later in March, we have the 88 session. At the end of March, we'll get into the adjustments and then offsets. So that's what's upcoming. Just going to leave this up here while we address some of the Q&A. There are lots of questions in the chat. So we are, just to be open about this process, we are taking all of the questions that we see, and we're going to be compiling them and addressing FAQs on our BEAM website and the knowledge base. So please look out for that. If you haven't visited the BEAM site yet, you'll see that there has been content that's been added with the addition of the presentations that we're doing. So you'll be able to click on the link to the video and the presentation. This will be available as well. We'll continue to add information there so that the common questions that are being asked are addressed up front and center. So some of the questions related to filing, I just want to go through. Just a question on the process. So the flavor of the question that's been coming in is, so you have to pay your 97 or 88 filing fee for your local Law 84 vendor to have access in BEAM. And yes, that is correct. So the reasoning is that the data in BEAM is related to the 97 report, and so we're trying to have the secured access only to the owner's rep, and service provider that is applicable there. So those 3 email addresses are entered into the DOB Now payment portal, and that's associated with either the 97 filing fee, if your 97 report's due this year, or if you have a delayed filing, it's your 88 filing fee. So in that filing fee portal in DOB Now, you're entering 3 email addresses: the owner, the owner's rep, and the service provider. So those are the only 3 email accounts that will have access into the BEAM account for that particular building that you are filing a payment for. Once you get into BEAM and you have access to that building in BEAM, you have the ability to add additional service providers if needed, and that's where you can add the 84 service provider. Then that service provider would have access to all of the information in BEAM for that particular building. One other note that we've been getting a lot of questions about is, can the owner's rep also be the service provider, or do you need to have each one of these? Do you always need to have an owner's rep, 97 service provider, 84 service provider, 88 service provider? No, the owner's rep could serve as the service provider as long as the owner's rep meets the qualifications outlined in our rules on the qualifications of that service provider. So they can definitely be the 84 service provider. For 97, if they're a registered design professional, they could serve as that service provider. If they're a registered design professional, they could also be the 88 service provider. So that is definitely true. That question has come up quite a bunch. Let's see. I also wanted to touch on the filing date. So the question is, so the deadline for 84 report submissions is May 1st. The grace period that we were talking about that extends until the end of June is applicable for 97 and 88 reports. Within that grace period, you can also file for an extension. That extension only applies to the 97 and 88 reports. So just reiterating that benchmarking is still required to be completed by May 1st. That's the deadline for benchmarking. And also just noting that benchmarking is a prerequisite for most 97 reporting. And so, that's part of the reasoning there. Another question, we had lots of questions about the gross floor area. So want to touch on a couple of different aspects on gross floor area. The CBL and the covered buildings list is based off of Department of Finance's gross square footage, which is for tax purposes, calculating property taxes, and that is different than the gross floor area that's defined in the rules for local law 84 and 97. The definition gross floor area between 84 and 97 is the same. It's the same definition. However, the granularity between the gross floor area between each property type is may be different between 84 and 97, depending on the, how your building is, the different property use types within your building. So if you have more granular property types that you want to address for your 97 reporting that aren't there for your 88 reporting, and this could be because if you go too granular, you're not getting an energy grade for your building or an energy score for your building. So you may need to, anyway, so you can have you should set up your ESPM account so that you're reporting for 84 and local law 33, and then that data comes into BEAM. If you need to provide more granular property breakdown for 97, that is done in BEAM in one of the tickets that we'll cover in our 97 trainings. We've answered some of the questions in the chat related to GFA. We do have an Article 320 info guide related to 97 on gross floor area, and we've really expanded that section to cover what types, how to, to really talk about breaking down the gross floor area and the property granularity, what types of supporting documentation would be allowed for determining the gross floor area. And, again, this is up to the RDP to really, hone on what type of supporting documentation is allowed, or they feel comfortable validating that the gross floor area is accurate. And like I said, I'll repeat again from what I said earlier, but if you have a building that is the same property use type, such as multifamily building, you may not, the level of detail on supporting documentation that you need would not be as great as, say, you have a building with 6 different property use types located throughout different floors throughout the building. So there is some, there is the RDP's discretion that needs to come into play on that decision. We also had questions about just campuses and, just different flavors of, if you have, not even on campuses, but if you have one building that has multiple bins associated with it, is that a campus when in reality it's just one building? So in those situations, the owner or the service provider who submits the compliance report should confirm the bin that they are submitting on for that one building. So essentially we want one building has a bin. If the lot has multiple bins, then that would, follow campus reporting. And if you're interested in campus reporting and how we are allocating, how energy usage can be allocated within BEAM, that is something we're going to touch on Tuesday's session when we cover Article 320 reporting. So we will cover, different options for campus reporting then. I think that touches on a lot of the DOB questions. Oh, there was another question there were other questions that were coming in about manually entering data if, the utility provided data was inaccurate, if that was still acceptable. And from our perspective, yes, for 97 reporting, RDP is responsible for validating that utility information. And so if there are inaccuracies that the RDP knows and is aware of, then they, are providing manual entered data that is more accurate, and that they're attesting to this. That is something that we would accept. And let's see. Yeah, and I guess I just want to touch on for questions. I know we have a slide on, our new email account for BEAM related questions. We'll be answering BEAM related questions at that email address. If you have DOB Now specific related questions that, are not necessarily, issues with the payment portal or anything like that, there's a help form, a DOB Now help form on the DOB Now site that you should fill out. They're very responsive, in responding to that information. So, and again, please come to the knowledge base on BEAM. We'll be updating that, you know, as we see the types of questions that come in from doing all of these sessions and making sure that we're, you know, streamlining that process. Okay, and with that, I wanted to see if there were other speakers that were on here that, you know, if they wanted to address any other questions, if there were some questions that Con Ed wanted to address that were coming in, some high level stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. I believe there was a question I just answered regarding a failed share request. If your property or if your company has several accounts in BEUP, I hope you can hear me properly, but the basis for a share request being accepted or being successful is that the same requester ID used to set up a connection in Portfolio Manager is the same requester ID where the property resides in BEUP. So for example, if your property was created with an account in BEUP that has a requester ID of 400000, when you're establishing a connection in Portfolio Manager, Energy Star Portfolio Manager, you should set up that connection with the requester ID of 0000. If you attempt to share a property with a different requester ID, it will fail. So that's when you get that error that the share request is not being recognized and the share request failed. So I know there were a couple of questions regarding that. Just wanted to address it upfront. I'm also going through more questions, so I will be responding in the Q&A tab. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Can you go to next slide, please? So if there are any additional questions, you know, we are happy to have you respond here to this email address, and we will, you know, we'll take in your questions as needed. And again, like I mentioned, we're doing, you know, all of these additional webinars, and these are, we've covered kind of high level and given you an overview of what's in these new platforms, but this is just to, you know, if you're doing a lot of 321 filings, you want to be sure to come to the 321 because we'll be tailoring all the, you know, the questions that we're getting around 321 within that presentation itself, and same with 320. We've allocated a lot of extra time today. We know that National Grid couldn't make it, but we are, happy to continue responding to these questions. And like I said, posting them online. And I think with that, we can conclude the 2025 benchmarking forum.
Thank you, Emily, and a big thank you and a virtual round of applause to all our guest speakers today. We will share the video recording with everyone within the next couple days, and it will be also published on ASHRAE and DOB websites. We are also sharing a presentation evaluation link in the chat right now. Please take a few moments to fill it out and provide your feedback, and we will leave the webinar as always active for another 2 minutes. So if you would like to save any of those links or email addresses or contact information, there was a lot of information provided in the chat today, so please take a moment to copy or click it. And last chance to ask any last-minute questions in the chat. Otherwise, please use the contact emails that were shared during the webinar today. And that's all for today. Again, a big thanks to everyone who organized today's webinar. And I hope to see everyone on Friday. The webinar will start at 11 a.m. And it's going to cover Article 321 filing compliance. So thank you again for joining us and have a great day. See you this Friday.